was a spiritual war, and all would be fair in this stale and pale game of love and war. And every disciple and follower would seek to be a superstar. And although one would feel vague and empty within, the deceptive ability to front, fake, and pretend would make it very easy for one to produce a cocky, arrogant, and confident grin.
The self-acclaimed white male is still the master warlord of his culture, a culture that he has expanded to include all comers who are willing to submit to the domination of his attitudes, values, behaviors, and beliefs, while being prepared to uphold and maintain his social, economic, political, and religious infrastructure. The self-acclaimed white male is still the dominant male with the swiftest ability to kill, maim, conquer, torture, destabilize, and destroy. His culture, the culture that survived the white blight of snow and ice, north of the Caucasus, a northeastern Caucasian culture, an invasion culture that expanded into Western Europe, a Western European culture, an invasion culture, the culture of the Western man, his culture, a Middle Eastern culture that emerged out of invasions, an invasion culture. His culture, a religious culture, a culture that is religiously devoted to war, conquest, and enslavement, and the degrading of the female in honor of an almighty and omnipotent monotheistic male war god. His culture, a culture of vengeance, war, jealousy, greed, and wrath, a culture that thrives off of the thrill of the kill and bloodbath. His culture, a culture that has been forced into being integrated, assimilated, and adopted within each and every land that his culture has invaded and persuaded. There's absolutely no question about the fact that his culture is a predatory, warring culture of enslavement and domination, a culture that opposes the essence of life and supreme love in lieu of profit and the privilege to acquire material stuff and things. The almighty warlord and master predator who have shape-shifted into a modern profile, well disguised as civilized. These days, the warlord and his disciples and followers have changed their battle gear and now sport 2- and 3-piece business suits, while others patrol as uniformed officers and others wear designer jeans as ultra-elite multi-billionaires. Cash money is the new weapon of mass destruction, profiled as one of the privileges of controlling the booty and the spoils of war. Living the life of glamour in gated communities and exclusive affluent neighborhoods. In the midst of all of this, the warlord is being challenged as the pale mental mindset continues to spread its toxicity like a plague. This toxic meltdown is causing fiery rage in a new breed of warlord, the light bright warlord, the mellow yellow warlord, the warlords who wear their Nazi dread crowns, the warlords of blacks and browns, melanin rich, the ghetto warlord, the warlord of the barrios, warlords of urban blight, the warlords who now claim the cold and pale nature of the white supremacy ideology, although they are not white. That's right, within a color-coded version of force and coercion. And the challenges now extend beyond national boundaries into the global arena of so-called third world regimes that were once invaded, colonized, and bastardized. Yes, the master warlord has left many victims strung out, addicted to suffering, grueling misery, aches, and pains as a result of playing the warlord's game. In fact, stuff has gotten so bad that the warlords are joining their victims in wailing cries for mercy. However, Mother Nature has formulated her own challenge to the warlord and his loyal subjects and their hunting and herding consumption patterns that has produced toxic waste, polluted air, water, and soil, massive deforestation, and accelerated global warming, cancer, heart attacks, diabetes, obesity, AIDS, and stress-related chronic disorder. Mother Nature's challenge is that all of man, he and she, who now suffer the contamination of the warlord's mindset and his polarizing white supremacy ideology must submit to divine spirit conscious thought, reasoning, and action, or else self-destruct and toxic overload. We're speaking of the same warlord codes that have been glorified by the bringers of the war culture who declared Veni, Veni, Vici, which translates as I came, I saw, I conquered, at the height of the Roman Empire, which forwarded the founding principles of modern-day Western culture. We note that Rome fell from within because the Roman warlords were too busy seeking to feed their lust and greed, too busy within a quest to dominate and control the rest of the world, too busy and trapped in gender confusion and the polarizing and disenfranchisement of the female as an inferior being within a church and state ordeal that produced weak and feeble males. Too busy perpetuating the same polarizing spiritual war that had commenced as a movement to establish universal warlord control in the perpetuation of monarchy, monotheism, monopoly, and monogamy. The Roman warlords were mesmerized by the refined systems of enslavement and usury that were brought forward out of the then New World Order of Babylon, where the Judeo version of the Judeo-Christian religion was codified, the same Judeo religion that later codified Islam. There was not enough common sense to realize that the disenfranchisement of the female would indeed cause the fatal decline of Babylon and any other system that integrates, assimilates, and adopts the attitudes, values, behaviors, and beliefs of that polarizing nature. The polarizing nature of blatant ignorancy was not allow common sense penetration to enter the brain of these pale invaders who somehow could not connect with the fact that he, the male, is the sum total of the energy of which man she consumes. Therefore, to spew out toxic energy on the female as the mother spirit automatically contaminates his own source of nurturing, regardless of his fantasized reasoning that manifested within that polarizing nature of monotheistic insanity. And even worse, this male, born out of this monotheistic warlord mindset, was too preoccupied with waging war to realize that once he began to isolate and polarize his most sacred ancestral melanin-rich elders, he was initiating a pathway to self-destruction. Although the extended family members of the pale invaders who entered the Indus Valley appeared to assimilate the ancestral Hindu culture, they actually brought vile contamination. Their grave error was that they too brought with them the polarizing nature of paleness that emerged in the northern Caucasus. Thus they too would gather in maddening insanity, projecting Varna in opposition to the sacred ancestral spirit presence of the children of the sun, glorifying the paleness of mutation and degeneration, while degrading and belittling and disenfranchising the ancestral sun children, reducing them to a lower and lesser category of being inferior, black, and therefore untouchable unless there was a lusting greed to intercourse or otherwise rape one of the dark and lovely ancestral females whose soft, sensuous, and wet body temple appeared to be irresistible to the pale ones, regardless of the state of suffering, grueling, misery, aches, and pains inflicted upon her and her ancestral family community. Make no mistake about it, those who came and saw and conquered Veni, Veni, Vici were definitely of the same pale family lineage who left pockets of their genetic strain everywhere they roamed.
And the ejaculation trail of this cold-blooded energy, stale and pale, will lead the children of the sun straight to hell. And sacred ancestral masculinity had become completely minimized. No divine guidance, no divine protection, no supreme ancestral affection.